It is not very often that you'll find a car this modern on the Hubnut channel. So what justifies this car? This is a 2019 Fiat Panda Cross 4x4, and what makes it interesting is it has the TwinAir engine. So what is that? Sure, it's a modern engine base, so it's mostly covered in plastic, but what we have here is a twin cylinder engine, just like Fiat's of old, the Fiat 500 Nuevo of the 1950s right through to the 70s, the Fiat 126 which came afterwards. Very distinctive Frummy twin cylinder soundtrack. I think the pistons are coming up together, so it kind of sounds a bit like a one cylinder engine. There is a tiny little turbocharger down here. So with that dinky little turbocharger, maximum power is 84 brake horsepower from 875cc. But even more astonishing perhaps is the maximum torque, which is 107 pound-foot of torque, produced at just 1900 RPM. Crazy. What I will say though, if you look at this bonnet, and you can also see the inner wings, there is no paint on them. Fiat seems so convinced of their anti-corrosion work that they didn't bother painting every part of this car. That's not unusual. I've seen the same on Citroen models as well, where if it's out of sight, it's out of mind. Don't bother painting it. You can see right down the inner wings, so it just looks like there's overspray everywhere. It's very, very peculiar. Next to this dinky little engine, we've got a 6-speed gearbox. So yeah, this really is feeling very, very modern indeed. But I just love the looks. Cars aren't cute anymore, but this, with all this sort of plastic wrap, and it's like heavy eyeliner, and I like goth chicks, so maybe that's what it is. It's just funky. I really, really like it. Let's drop the bonnet and we'll go and have a look around the back of this little car. So the regular 4x4 just looks like a regular Panda really, with a bit more ground clearance. The Cross gets you all this plastic trim, and they really do jack the ground clearance up a bit. It is actually a pretty serious off-roader, albeit still a fairly soft one in terms of the fact it hasn't got low ratio gears. It does have a diff lock. It's got a viscous coupling to send power to where it's needed, so that locks up the two axles, and you can lock that manually, and it has hill descent just like a fairly modern Land Rover. So it will come down a hill on the brakes, releasing them if it detects a skid. All fancy stuff. But I do like the styling of these third generation Pandas. This is a Mark IV, because there were two marks of the first generation Panda. And while this note owes absolutely nothing to the Giugiaro original Panda, I'm quite glad the name came back. I think it works well. And again, the Cross gets these funky rear lights. It's just a bit more interesting. But it is the technical package that makes this car interesting for me, and is what makes me think I'm going to like this modern car. I generally don't, but this one is cute. There's a hint of Suzuki Ignis going on at the front, I think, and very, very functional. So I think I'm probably going to like it. Let's just do the door check. Yeah, it's not quite Volkswagen Golf, but it's pretty good. Lots of bright red metal contrasting with this somber black interior. If we step in, it's really quite funky, I think. We've got this raised centre console with a gear lever, and that's got quite a nice little action on it. Very light action. This is the controller for your four-wheel drive, so that's on the road. That's let's get rough and tumble. And then you've got the hill descent mode over here. 12-volt power outlet here, but there is also a USB output here, and this looks like Fiat's own mobile phone holder. So that's a big improvement on the Mark I Panda, which didn't even seem to have somewhere to charge your phone on the lower spec models. We've got this connected audio system that I'm sure people who understand such things can tell you about. We've still got the city mode on the steering, so you can make it even lighter than it already is. Fog lights we've got. Maybe you turn them both on at the same time. Maybe it goes between the two. We'll find out. I guess that's turned the circulation off on this. I don't know, but we have got air conditioning, albeit it's manual. I mean, even this, I think, that's quite funky controls. Electric window switches, eco mode to make it even more economical, and you know, steering wheel with buttons, as you kind of expect in a modern car. If I just dig out the key, we can look at some things on the steering. It's a fairly functional key, as you tend to expect these days. Put the key in, And yeah, we've got a multifunction display up ahead of us. This will tell us that ELD is when your diffs all locked up, and it's telling me the door is open, and it is. So that's good. Incidentally, all these Mark IV Pandas are built in Italy. The Mark III Panda was built in Poland, but the government pushed Fiat to bring production back to Italy, so they did. But yeah, very comfortable seats, no huge shaping to them, but that's fine. It means they're very comfortable, and it feels fairly hard wearing as well. We've even got sort of plasticky head restraints going on. Doesn't seem like you can adjust the height of this seat belts, which seems a minor oversight. Funky handbrake down here. I'll just put my foot on the brake. So that is the handbrake. I don't know why it's like that, but it's just nicely different. I will say this does get in the way a bit, but there is just room. You can see a little cutout to give your foot somewhere to rest when it's not on the clutch pedal. So that's something at least. But yeah, nice comfortable driving position, fairly sizable windows for a modern car. And as I've got the ignition on, we can do a wiper test. Oh, there's just enough overlap to avoid a triangle of doom. That's a pretty decent wiping performance in anyone's book. Should we do the rear while we're at it? Yeah, that's also a very pleasing wiping performance. I'm not sure why the front wipers came on. I think that was the dribble wipe that manufacturers tend to fit, even though I hate that. But yeah, funky dash. I quite like it. We'll get into driving dynamics shortly, but I better jump in the rear. See how that compares. This one's got the limo tint on it. Just move this, the owner's hat, a very fine looking hat. Oh, Andy's also bought some gingerbread from somewhere. We'll put that safe there as well. Move my bag out of the way, and I shall hop in. So, this is feeling very cozy indeed, and that head restraint is straight into my lower back. So we'll just adjust that up, pull the door. Yeah, that's feeling a bit gloomy and claustrophobic with your privacy tint on. It is tight for legroom. I am struggling a bit there. That's not ideal. That's where the seat's set for me. Obviously a shorter driver will give you a bit more space. But yeah, very simple. It's not even a split rear seat. But yeah, you could carry people here. I would suggest you don't do it too far. By Jove, it's even got keep fit windows in the back. Oh, that makes it feel a bit less claustrophobic. Just have the window open. Quite a nice action on that though. How weird. I don't associate keep fit windows with modern cars, but there we go. See if we can get in the boot without a key. Oh, we can. That's an improvement on the Mark 1. And good place to keep your bucket. And not a bad space boot for what is, you know, fundamentally a small car. Little reminder that it is a Panda. So yeah, seat folds forward, parcel shelf comes out for a bit more space. But that'd do for a weekly shop, I think. Right, let's hear this baby run then. So far it sounds relatively normal, but I'm going to open the window. It sounds like a bubble car. I absolutely love it. Or of course it sounds like an old Fiat. I even find myself automatically slowing down my gear changes because I'm so used to hearing that noise with a Fiat engine. And if I'm driving a Fiat that makes that noise, generally it's a Nuevo 500 and it's got a non-synchromesh gearbox. So yeah, this is just peculiar, but here we go. Easily pull away on gravel with no wheel spin because of the four-wheel drive. Just not the soundtrack you would imagine, is it? Oh, we are at 60, it just didn't feel like it, but yeah, that was 60 miles an hour. That was in eco mode though, so we'll turn eco mode off and we'll see if it picks up any. Let's try again. No one behind us, so we can come to a stop. It does rev limit in first, but then it's cutting out at like 5,500 revs. We could just get up to 60 in third there. at about 5,500 revs, which to be fair is where maximum power is produced. And I think that's the thing, I find this very characterful, but I wonder if people who just want an ordinary car think the same, or if it just sounds buzzy and irritating to them. In fact, I can go into 6 now. Not used to having 6 gears. Woo, how fancy. And we're doing a touch under 3,000 revs at 60. There's a fair bit of road noise, I think, which I find a little disheartening, but I suppose one should remember this is actually a fairly cheap car. But yeah, that is a lot of road noise. But it's got the little nagging thing that's always telling you what gear to be in, and it always wants you in a higher gear than you're in fact in. But with a little tiny turbocharger, it does pick up really well. So that's one key difference between this and earlier Fiat twin engines, is you had to rev the absolute pants off those early cars to get moving at all. This has so much torque. It's quite astonishing. It doesn't feel anywhere like the same sort of engine. Well, I suppose it isn't. It's got variable valve timing, a turbocharger, 10.2 to 1 compression ratio on the turbo, I think. So yeah, it's a very, very different world to little Fiats of old. But it feels very, very confident out on the open road. Much more so than the Mark III Panda I drove with the 1.1 engine, the Active Eco. That really did feel like it was struggling. This, you can put your foot down at 2,500 revs. It's got torque. That's not an issue at all. So, yeah, that's quite surprising in a way. I'm going to go this way for absolutely no reason whatsoever. There it is, it's nagging me. As soon as I get to about 3,500 revs, it's calling for the next gear and it pulls it. That's the amazing thing. So you kind of have to rethink your driving. I don't like the steering very much. Even when you're not in city mode, the steering still feels like one of those false feedback gaming system steering wheels. It doesn't feel very real at all. But yeah, this is a remarkably pleasant car to drive. But it isn't as fizzy as I expected. I was expecting to have to rev the engine, and you just don't, because that's not how you get economy. Handles fairly well given how tall it is, because you know it is a bit tall and wobbly compared to regular Pandas. But of course no wheel spin, because it's got the traction, so it just accelerates straight out of bends. I am a big fan of permanent four-wheel drive, and perhaps there are downsides. The computer reckons this is averaging 46 mpg, which isn't brilliant for a tiny little engine like that, but you have got full-time four-wheel drive. I fear we aren't going to find any green lanes and be able to do any actual off-roading today, but this is someone's fairly recently acquired pride and joy, so that might be a bit of a bad thing to do in it anyway. But they are astonishingly capable given the limitations of tyres and the lack of a proper low ratio gearbox. It does have a lower first gear. Yeah, this feels like a really, really good engine. I've been waiting a long time to drive one of these with a TwinAir engine. I think the TwinAir came out with this generation in 2011, so already this Mark IV generation of Panda has been with us for a decade. How did that happen? This feels like they came out just yesterday. The ride is a little bouncy, but it's not uncomfortable actually. So this is a very, very likeable car. And I think with an ordinary four-cylinder engine, they're just not very interesting. But with this TwinAir lump, yeah, I am intrigued and I am liking. I like it when manufacturers don't do the obvious thing, and I think developing a twin-cylinder engine at this stage of motoring is a very unusual step, and I fully applaud Fiat for going there, for being brave, for doing it differently. But it's actually almost a little ordinary to drive, especially as the computer's nagging you to change gear all the time, so you can't really hear that engine doing its thing. But yeah, nonetheless, I am liking this. This is modern cars done right. Sorry, naggy computer, I just want to enjoy it. So we're in 5th gear at 40 miles an hour, doing 2,000 revs. It still wants me to change up. Okay. That sounds horrible. Are you sure, computer? That feels like we're labouring the engine to death. So I'm just going to drop it to and accelerate, because national speed limit, yay! Oh, this is really nice. I'm slightly disheartened that I'm driving something so modern and really liking it, but yeah, it manages to be interesting because of that clever little engine, and the fact it's got the 4-wheel drive as well. I think this is great, and I just adore the styling of the Panda Cross. They did a Panda Cross version of the Mark III Panda as well, and if anything, that was even cuter. The power delivery isn't always very linear. Sometimes you seem to get a real sudden surge of boost, and I find it does seem to rev limit him first, which is a little bizarre. So you can't hold first very long, possibly because first is a shorter gear, because it's designed to be a bit of a crawler gear. What astonishes me, I came up quite a steep hill, oh that's a bit quick, in these parts. One which I definitely have to downshift inside the Daihatsu Charade, and which also has quite tall gearing. This came up it in 6th gear. In fact, it was trying to accelerate. So yeah, that is unusual. Oh, we've got a bit of a showstopper here, folks. It's just started raining, and I've just realised that to change the wiper settings, you have to twist the end of the stalk. Why? You've got your mist function there, but I don't want to have to take my hand off the wheel just to change the wiper settings. I live in Wales. The wiper settings need adjusting quite a lot. I just want to be able to do it with a flick of the fingers. There's no point having a column stalk if you've got to take your hand off to operate it. That, my friends, is rubbish. So there we go. That was the exceedingly enjoyable Fiat Panda Cross TwinAir. That's a really likeable little package. Doesn't mean I'm about to rush out and buy one because I'm still skint, but still I can definitely see what the appeal is there. That's a lot of fun. I just love the styling. Look at it. You've even got this little chunky sort of skid plate-esque front end on it. I've got the fog lights on just for illuminating purposes here. Don't worry, I'm not driving around with them on. This is a great little car, and very interesting engineering indeed. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed that. I certainly have. And I look forward to seeing you in a future video. Farewell. For this little engine, 875cc, yet it produces, I can't remember this, I can't remember it, I can't remember.